Richard, my one big thing this week is also a really impressive report that came out this week, not from us, but we can still look at it and enjoy it. I've always really been interested in the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Saudi Arabia, but really, since our conversation with Iyad Bayouk, who's a venture capitalist in the space earlier this month on the show, what was really cool about that, Richard, and I'm sure you agree, is just how much Iyad knows about the space, just sort of being on the ground, seeing it unfold. He's with Flat Six Labs, raising LP money, working closely with entrepreneurs through accelerator programs. So it just was like really, really good. And so this week, STV released a really impressive report that was actually not as much looking back at what's been done, although there's a lot of that in it. It's a lot of looking forward. And Richard, just to echo your point from the last segment, I mean, there aren't a lot of places out there that are doing really good stuff on the startup ecosystem and venture capital space in Saudi Arabia and the region. Magnet and WAMDA aren't good sources for that stuff. But STV's report is really good. It was released by STV Insights. In the report, STC says the MENA region is one of the most attractive markets for the development of tech ventures and argues that it has now reached an upward tipping point in its growth trajectory, which is interesting. STC believes the region can output 45 unicorns by 2030 and can, quote, create digital giants that can list on public markets, remain independent, and keep their focus on delivering innovative solutions tailored to local needs. It continues, more than 55% of MENA's population is younger than 30 years old, and it is growing at a rate of 1.6% per year. MENA's population are avid consumers of digital media with an average daily social media consumption of 3.5 hours. These statistics set the MENA apart in comparison to any other region across the world. The report also describes, it's from STV, so, just the largest venture capital firm in Saudi Arabia. The report describes Saudi Arabia as the gravitational center for scaling tech unicorns based on the country's GDP and, of course, the stock exchange size. And what was unsaid is how well the stock exchange is doing, especially in the IPO space. It continues, the list of underdeveloped sectors in the region offering leapfrog opportunities is, quote, long and includes logistics, which is still underdeveloped and extremely fragmented, as well as real estate discovery, purchasing and financing, currently underserved due to lack of market transparency and the dominance of informal and non-professionalized network of independent real estate brokers. So, again, Richard, just like the last segment, I would like to go through this whole thing right now. But it's not quite as long as the MISA report, but it just has so much good in there that makes it really easy to just sit back and sort of digest everything that's going on with the space, see where it's going. I should note, STV also says progress is really already underway and in fact has outperformed its previous prediction it made in its last report, which was 2019. So we're going to include a link to it in the YouTube comments. We'll also include it in the show notes for the podcast listeners, but just check it out. It's from STV. It's really, really good. Lots of great data. We're also going to include some more graphics here to my right so you guys can see, or my left. I forgot if the thing flips when we record it, but yeah, one of these directions there's going to be data. But just check. It's just really good. And if you haven't listened to our conversation with Iyad Bayouk from Flat Six Labs or Amjad Ahmed, who's also in the venture capital space in the region, just really bright guys, great conversations, really fascinating stuff.
I love this report. And I feel like I think when we spoke with Iyad Bayouk, which I want to second, he's really knowledgeable, and it was such a delight just to sort of push start and have him just talk and really intelligently about the industry. And as you recall, just prior to that discussion with Iyad, the IHS Magnet 2022 H1 first half reported coming out. And but you're exactly right. That was retrospective, looking at the first year. This STV report, which, by the way, I think is really well put together and well thought out, is fascinating because, for me, when you hear all this stuff that Saudi Arabia is doing, and these announcements and projections and metrics, and the aspirations are enormous, and you go, that's not realistic. Come on. That's your first, that's a legit, you got to be critical. You got to do your due diligence, and you have to wonder, all right, is this possible? And sometimes it's not completely possible, but that's the direction they're heading. But the numbers can be enormous, and they can be daunting. They can be so big that you dismiss it. You read this report and you go, well, that's why they're excited about this. That's why they're so fired up about the possibilities in a lot of sectors, and specifically, so STV, as you mentioned, is the largest VC group. They have 500 million under assets under management, and they're a frequent and a big player throughout the Saudi VC ecosystem. 35 investments, 23 lead investments, but they're looking at the big picture here, and it's a forecast. And what they see is they see a MENA region, which is a population of about 480 million. By comparison, the EU region, 450 million, US 335 million. And and I hope we can put it up. There's a graph that shows on the y-axis is the vertical axis is population under 30, x-axis is population growth, and what you see is the MENA region up at the top right. So younger population, higher growth rate. And so the regions were South Asia, Latin America, US, and Europe. And again, the MENA region is top right, really well poised. So this is a population, equivalent to the EU, bigger than the US, that, as you mentioned, and as the report goes into, is really underserved in terms of its tech and the way it uses financial and technology in terms of its consumption. It's 45% of MENA population is still unbanked in the retail sector, where the leasable retail area per capita is still 1/4 of that of developed economies. So the fintech and e-commerce opportunity is huge. So you've got this big market, you've got this technology savvy market, you've got this young market, and you alluded to it, but one of the interesting things about STV, this report referred to an earlier report they did, and it was entitled "How Much Can the Venture Capital Industry Grow in Saudi Arabia by 2025?" Mm-hmm. And that report said it's going to take. This is in 2019. It was done. It said it expected to take 6 years for the MENA and Saudi Arabia VC deployment to reach 2.6 billion for the MENA, 500 million for Saudi Arabia. They achieved that in 2 years. Mm-hmm. So, and that's the other point that this report is making, is they looked at comparable ecosystem growth in a variety of markets, in Brazil, Germany, UK, India, South Korea. Even they sort of prorated the US market, and they realized that this is on a similar path, and the path is not linear, it's exponential.
Yep. In
terms of its growth. So the report is just fascinating, and it does finish up by saying, it makes sense because of its GDP size and because of the depth of its stock exchange. The Saudi Arabia is the natural gravitational center, which you referenced here, but it's really a fascinating report. It was interesting to me because it goes, like I said, you go back to, all right, we have all these enormous aspirations, and then you read this and you go, this isn't just fantasy. This is based on real metrics, real analysis, and patterns that have gone forward, in comparable markets in recent periods. And it's a great read. And it's something, if you're a Saudi, if you're in a VC, but also just in general, you're interested in that economy, you go, all right, this is possible. Maybe we do have 45 unicorns by 2030, and maybe we do have 10 decacorns by 2030. Mm-hmm. It's not just sort of pulling a number out of a hat. It's based on the market and based on the current trajectory of that market and based on the demographics of the market. And it's a really good report.
Very well said. It's also, if you look at these, like you said, it's exponential growth here, but the report also talks a little bit about why it's happening, and it's a little bit in there, but they're essentially saying, well, look, there's a lot of reforms going on right now. So, the financial sector development program, some of these sort of big picture reforms that are happening, it's impossible to really know the direct impact of it, but it's sort of in the background of what's happening over there. And so it places Saudi Arabia and the MENA region as sort of leading in the world in, just ripe opportunity. And all the graphics just explain, they say it, but all the graphics just visually, and we'll have them on the YouTube as well, as you'll see, are stunning. VC deployment in Saudi Arabia in 2017, basically nothing. It's as close to zero as you can get. 2021, $548 million. That is exponential growth. And so, where's it going from here? Well, the economy is humming, the market is ripe, The population is young. The reforms are ongoing. How could you not conclude that this is a really, really good place to invest right now and for the next 8 years? So check it out. I mean, this report is really good. Both of us, when it hit sort of late on, I guess it was Tuesday night, Richard, we were sending it back and forth, just being like, whoa, there's so much in here. This is incredible. So check it out. Really great stuff. Good stuff from STV. Hopefully they don't do 2 more years until their next report. I know these are hard to produce, but just was really good.
And we want to thank them and also the Ministry of Investment for their graphics-rich reports, because that makes our, that's an added touch of flair to our B-roll.
Yes, indeed.
Our videos. I know you were thinking of us, STV and Misa. I know you were thinking of us. Greatly appreciated. We acknowledge your being so thoughtful.
And we're excited to speak with somebody from STV sometime in the near future to talk about this report and some of the stuff they're doing. They have a really impressive portfolio of companies already in Saudi Arabia and in the region as well, and beyond that, frankly. But just all over the place too. E-commerce, media. Just anyway, check it out. Really good.
And if we're plumping next upcoming, our next episode is going to be with Dr. Saad Al-Shahrani, Deputy Minister of the Saudi Ministry of Investment, which we're extremely excited about.